All right, well, welcome to the third training session for our QEP. So this is the third and final, as we have planned. If we need to meet again, we can. But today's session actually deals more with the assessment piece of our plan. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what's going to be involved in the assessment part of it. Begin by reviewing the QEP goal, as we've done in the previous two sessions, looking at our student learning outcomes, our professional development outcomes, and again, then drilling down to the assessment part of it, so you'll know exactly what we're going to be collecting, how that's going to work, and how it will play into, again, our measurement of success for our quality enhancement plan. So to begin with, again, let's review our goal. So the goal of our QEP is to enhance our graduates' ability to communicate effectively for their chosen career and educational paths. And as we've mentioned previously, our plan drills down to 3 student learning outcomes. So given a professional or academic context appropriate to the student's chosen career educational path, first, the student will express thoughts and ideas in writing using standard English and appropriate vocabulary. And second, the student will express thoughts and ideas orally using standard English and appropriate vocabulary. And third, the student will select and use appropriate means and methods to communicate those thoughts and ideas. And as we've discussed before, that just means that we're drilling down and holding students accountable for using proper English, good grammar, standard English in their writing and speaking initiatives, and that they're using the right format, whether that be for a written assignment or whether that be for that oral presentation, that they're using, again, for the written assignment, they're using the proper format that the science discipline dictates on that particular activity. For the oral assignment, that they're using an electronic visual aid to, again, supplement their message. You guys have the appropriate formatting communication guidelines checklist. This list was put together by the RCC assessment team, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes. And again, it helps you in terms of holding students accountable for the things that we're going to be assessing in terms of our 3 student learning outcomes. So I want you to make sure that you get students engaged with this checklist and that you use it with your oral and your written activities so that we can make sure that we, again, have similar artifacts and that we're holding students accountable across all college curricula for the expectation we have. Our professional development outcomes mirror the student learning outcomes, and so instructors are going to acquire skills and knowledge to both teach and assess communication skills, holding students, again, accountable for that standard English and appropriate vocabulary use. Instructors are going to acquire skills and knowledge needed to teach and assess orally using standard English and appropriate vocabulary. So again, the first one deals with the writing component, the second one deals with the oral component. And then finally, instructors will select and use appropriate instructional means and methods to teach and assess communication of these thoughts and ideas to our students. Now, in terms of the assessment piece of our plan is going to measure our student learning outcomes and determine our plan's success. We will be doing both direct assessment measures as well as indirect assessment measures, right? So the initial assessment is going to come with our 20% random sample. So what that means is that when the department or the area of instruction fully implements, so when you guys fully implement the QEP in the fall of 2016, we're going to be taking 20% of a random sample of both the oral artifact and the written artifact from the 2 intervention courses that we selected. I think we've chosen, it was going to be bio, we changed it to 111, right, Carl? And the second one is, thank you, Physics 152. So we're going to be taking 20% random sample. And Charles is going to talk to you a little bit about the OWCC and its role in the assessment piece of our plan and how we're going to capture that data, okay? In subsequent years, we're going to take a 5% random sample. So once we fully implement in fall 2016, then in the next academic year, so for you guys it would actually be in spring 2018 is what it will ultimately be. But again, the next academic year afterwards in the spring, we'll take the ongoing assessment part. So we'll collect those artifacts again, but we just won't have as large of a group. to pull from, okay? And then we'll have that comparative data, so we'll be able to compare the initial assessment results with what we have ongoing to see whether or not what we're doing is really making a difference with our students in terms of their oral and written communication skills. The OWCC, as you heard in our employee meeting, stands for the Oral and Written Communication Center. Charles Dickerson, who's with us here today, is our coordinator of the OWCC, and he's doing a really good job in terms of growing the center and making sure that it's supporting the QEP, making sure that it's supporting students. And in terms of the QEP, I've said from the beginning when we developed the OWCC that it actually is kind of the nucleus of our quality enhancement plan. It's kind of like the support hub, if you will. So the OWCC supports students first and foremost, supports faculty in terms of giving resources, tools, and ideas to help faculty do what we're asking them to do in terms of our oral and written communication needs. And then also to help in any other communication need that the college might have. So it serves a variety of purposes. And in terms of assessment, the OWCC is also responsible for helping collect and archive data, collect and archive artifacts. And we work with the assessment team, and in terms of the assessment team, which I'll talk about in a minute, again, the OWCC does all things communication for us and helps, again, to support that assessment piece. In terms of assessment team, when we developed our plan, we told SAC-COC that we would actually integrate QEP with Gen Ed outcomes. So we would mix them together to show that we were really serious about improving student learning. And we developed a RCC college-wide assessment team wherein we actually assess QEP and we also assess general education outcomes, particularly with communication outcomes. And so every spring, at the end of the spring semester, the assessment team meets. We actually will review all the artifacts that we have. We have rubrics that are in place, and we talked about those rubrics in our first training session, and I showed you how to access those online. And so with that rubric and the checklist, and I brought you a copy of that checklist today, you can see how the assessment team is going to look at those artifacts. When we assess with this college-wide assessment project, no one looks at the instructor, no one looks, and it's not about faculty at all. It's about the student artifact. It's about what that artifact tells us in terms of a communication skill. Does the student have the necessary skills needed to succeed academically, to succeed professionally? And as we've mentioned before, scholarship tells us that students who possess those skills are the students who do well in the classroom, right? I mean, would you not say that students who communicate very well, they write very well, they can speak very well in your class, those are typically the students who generally get the higher marks, right? They're the ones who excel in the classroom, and the same holds true on the job too, and that's what we want. So again, we want to set our students up for success, both academically as well as professionally, and we're tying QEP with general education. So ultimately, at the close of our 5-year plan, the QEP will just become part of what we normally do. It's just our normal practice, our normal expectation to improve communication skills, as well as to improve communication perceptions internally and externally for RCC, or Richmond CC. Rubrics. We've talked some about those already, and you have sample rubrics. You have rubrics that Charles, through the OWCC, and Sharon Goodman have also worked together to create, that a lot of instructors are using in their classes for QEP assignments. You also have, again, the rubrics that I've mentioned online. So you've got a wide variety to pull from, but we want to make sure that everybody is using a rubric for that oral assignment, for that written assignment. Rubrics, we know, don't necessarily teach students much about content-wise, but we know that that's how the student knows we're going to grade them. It's the expectation on the assignments. It's the accountability for what we expect, what our guidelines are. So I want to make sure that we are using those rubrics. Part of the QEP, again, is to standardize our expectations for communication skills across all college curricula. So again, reading and or writing and speaking across the curriculum. And so we want to use those rubrics and make sure that they're put into place. Again, making sure that the rubrics have the QEP in them. The SLOs, the first SLO, second SLO, third SLO. And then the perception surveys. Again, the first part deals with direct assessment. Perception surveys are indirect assessment pieces. And so we're going to be doing surveys in the classes. We also have surveys going out to students via the student satisfaction survey that the college does annually. And so you'll see some of that coming in the fall once you're fully implementing. So just be aware that you may have survey implemented or conducted in your class. Again, it just helps us to capture additional data so we know what we're doing is impacting and making a difference. It also helps us to know that maybe we need to modify some things as we go through this implementation process. All right, so the main things you want to remember again is that we're going to have initial assessment, we'll have ongoing assessment. Those are the direct pieces of assessing our plan, and then we'll have the perception surveys for indirect measurements of the plan success. Any questions about the assessment piece? Sure.
Maybe you explain this, but how exactly will you get that 20%? For written assignments, that might be simple, but how would you get assess 20%?
We're going to talk to you about that in just a few minutes. Yeah. But we'll actually be recording presentations for those intervention courses, and then we'll also be collecting the papers from those classes. But again, we're going to tell you more about that as we move through today's information. But good question. Any other questions before we move forward? All right, great. Okay. Oral and Written Communication Center, again, as you are going to hear it called OWCC. OWCC is a resource that we want you to use. We want you to encourage your students to use. It is the resource hub and support for our QEP. Charles will talk to you a little bit more in detail about it, but again, this is an overview. It provides tutoring services for students, both oral and written tutoring services. We also have the awesome speech studio space in there that I'm really proud of. I don't know of any other community college in the state that has the resource that we have for this particular part for communication needs. So I want you to start using it and get your students in there to use it. The OWCC will provide tutorial services online and traditionally, as well as, again, participating with our assessment part of the plan and collecting data for the for the QEP. And then part of what we're going to do with our Oral and Written Communication Center is that we're developing a repository of resources for faculty, so that you'll have some information at your fingertips if you just want to look something up. We're in the process of building that, if you will. So it's growing. So we have a lot of things going on with it, but as time moves forward, we're going to be continuing to add resources that we offer for faculty, for staff, and for students. Okay. So what are you supposed to be doing at this juncture? Beginning to plan for implementation in fall of 2016. The first thing that I want you to do is to determine which oral and written artifacts or assignments that you're going to do in your class, that you're going to fully implement that QEP in, right? In terms of the intervention courses that we're going to actually be collecting hard, fast, direct data from, we want to make sure that you guys are doing a similar assignment. You don't have to do the exact same thing, but I want you to think of similar ones. So for everybody who's teaching a Bio 111, your written artifact and your oral artifact, or written assignment, oral assignment, should be very similar, right? This is just going to help make sure that our assessment data is as accurate as it can possibly be, okay? Make sure that you go ahead and start developing that grading rubric for those two assignments. And remember that we gave you in the last session a lot of resources and tools and ideas so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Use the things that are already out there to maximize your time, maximize your energy and efforts while you implement the QEP. Then you want to be modifying your course documents to reflect the 3 SLOs. And I've given you the language already that you should put into your ICR. I think the last email sent you last week with the follow-up and the results from session 2 included March the 11th to try to have that ICR to me. I'll review it just to make sure that everything is in there as it should be. If I have questions, of course, I'll follow back up with you. And that way we can try to have everything in place before the end of this semester so that you guys don't have to worry about any of it. It's ready to go, ready to be fully implemented come the start of fall 2016, okay? Be sure that you're providing both the oral and the written component. Don't just do one, you need to do both, okay? And then you need to do what? Get excited, okay? I know it's kind of hard to get excited about oral and written communication skills if that's not your discipline, but just know that we're going to make a big difference in the lives of our students, and that's what we're really here for, right? And we know, again, good communicators are the ones who are going to do well, and we want our students to do well. We want them to do well while they're here. We want them to do well when they're on the job too. And so I'm excited about our quality enhancement plan and what it's already doing, what I've seen it do for some students already. And I know that as we continue with our implementation process that we're going to impact more students and see greater results. Any questions then about what I'm wanting or asking you to do at this point? Okay. All right. I'm going to turn it over to Charles. And he's going to talk to you about what artifacts you're going to be collecting and how you're going to collect those and what you're going to do with them and the importance of presentations. And
There you go. Take that from here real quick. There we go. All right, how are we all doing today? We doing pretty good? All right, so most of you know me. My name is Charles Dickerson. I'm going to pass these out real quick. These are little slips we give to everyone, students and faculty, so they know what the hours are. The hours are on the back as well as my contact information for the OWCC. There you go. And if you want some extras, feel free to help yourself. Let me get myself a copy. So I handed out a little sheet here. Basically, what I'm going to talk to you today is about what we do at the OWCC, at the Oral Written Communication Center, how we can help you out, how we help students out, and the best way to make use of us, as well as the actual collection of the artifacts and assessment stuff. So first order of business is if you ever need to get in touch with me, don't hesitate. I'm here to help you out with whatever you happen to be working on. So if you're trying to develop an assignment that fits you, trying to play with a rubric, whatever it is you need help with, feel free to contact me. Email is the best way. I spend 20 hours a week in the OWCC where we don't have a phone, and I spend about 5 hours a week in my office. So it's much easier to get me through email, and if you do call, you can leave a message and it actually gets forwarded to my email. So that either way is the best way to get a hold of me. If you email me, then I'll know you need help. I'm on my email all the time, and I'll find a time to meet up with you and get you set up. We also do presentations in classes, which really tailor to whatever your needs are. So if you want me or one of my people to come into the class and talk about writing or speaking, or just let students know that we're here, just let me know and I can get that all set up for you as well. Our hours change every semester. That's why I gave you that little handout. So those are the hours for this semester. But they're always posted up on the website as soon as I know them. Basically, I've got to coordinate with my tutor schedules. But once I get that all set up, then I post it up so everybody knows what it is. And I try to send out an email as soon as I know as well. But I try to keep them, afternoon time is pretty well covered and whatnot. So if you have a question about that, you can keep up with that through the semester, from semester to semester. So the main services that we give is for students is obviously the tutoring. Basically, if they need help with an oral or written component that they're working on in whatever class, it kind of gives them a consistent place to come, especially since we have all these written assignments and speech assignments in a variety of classes. They can come see me and they come see my tutors. They know that space is always there to help them out. So don't hesitate to send them our way. We also have the equipment available for them to practice their speeches, to record if they don't have their own recording equipment. We've got the recording space. We have webcams they can check out through the library. So pretty much we kind of supplement them with whatever they need to get them all set. We can also help out students online. So if you're teaching online classes or if a student can't get in for whatever reason, they can just email me at my email address on the pamphlet right there, or what you have right there. Let me know they need help, and I will work with them, either get a time worked out with them, or I'll work with them through email. I usually do track changes in a Word document. I'm available through Skype. People don't make use of it as much, but the best way I've found is track changes through a Word document and get back and forth with them. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we do with students, really. So long as we know they need help, we're pretty good about getting to it. Getting them help for whatever they need it with. Faculty, basically, I'm here to help you with whatever you need help with. You know, as we were talking about, you're developing your writing and speech stuff now. So, you know, I've helped a lot of people in other departments as they're putting their stuff together. You know, they're like, I'm not sure what I want to do, and I sit down and talk with them. And usually what I do is I kind of get a feel for what you're doing in your class, and then try to find something that'll be as easy to integrate into your current schedule as possible. Because anytime you got to add something new into a semester that already goes by far too quickly, it can be an extra challenge. So, you know, you talk with me, we'll work out something that should integrate nice and smoothly and fit with whatever lessons plans you're working on, as well as something that can maybe fit with the existing rubric, just to make it less work on you. But still making it fit with what you're trying to do here. Same with the speech component, essentially. I can help you with all that stuff. I'll talk about how we're going to do the recordings and the capturing that data. But the assignment itself, if you're coming up blank or you just want to talk with someone about it, I'm here to help you out. Just let me know and I'll be glad to come and work it out with you. So the most important business specifically, I mean, obviously it's important, but specifically with the collecting of artifacts and how that is actually done. With the written artifact, it's pretty straightforward, is whatever you decide to do. We all have Moodle enhanced classes now, so whether it's a traditional class, a hybrid, or online, the very easiest way to do this is to use the submit assignment on Moodle. I can get you one of these. Use the submit assignment link on Moodle. And that way they can turn all of their assignments in a Word document, and it makes it real easy. All you have to do is you click on it, it'll download it as one zip file, it'll download everything, and you send me that through email, and you don't got to worry about it anymore. You're done. I take care of all of the randomization, all of the sorting, making sure it gets to the assessment committee. I'll take care of all of that. All you need to do is send me the file with all of their documents in there. Now, I've had people have them turn in physical copies, and then they then gave me those physical copies. I'm not saying you can't do it, but I'd ask you please not to. It makes my life a lot more difficult because I have to then scan everything in, and I get a PDF file. And PDF files, as you may or may not know, are much harder to modify and work with than Word files are. And I have to break these up and sort them out and whatnot. So if I've got a bunch of PDF files, it becomes a much more difficult process for me. Whereas if I just have a zip file with a bunch of documents in them, it's much easier, and both for you and for me, because we also have to have clean copies on them. And if you have written copies, it can be harder to have the clean ones too. So for the written component, I ask that you make a Moodle submission, basically have them just turn it in on Moodle. And then if you prefer to write feedback for them and hand it back to them, you can just print them all up from there and do that how you want to, and you'll still be able to send me a zip file, or you can kind of do however you want to do that. But that'll be the easiest way to do the written component, and that's pretty straightforward. For the oral component, it kind of depends if you're traditional, hybrid, or online, but either way I'll get you good to go. Traditional, we basically come into the class, you let us know when you're going to do your presentations on that day, and we can come into the class just like I've got the camcorder set up here and I've done for the previous sessions. I'll come in, I'll record it, and you don't have to do anything different. Basically, you can just do your class as normal, have them do their presentations, I'll capture the data, and then you're done. I'll take it with me, I'll upload all the videos and get everything sorted out, and you don't have to worry about that. Alternatively, if you can't work it into your traditional class, where you just can't dedicate a day or two to have students speak and do their presentations in front of the class, we also have our dedicated speech space where they can come and do the recordings, and then we can have them upload it to your Moodle site. And that's pretty easy as well. You just set up a forum, and they can submit their links and basically say, this is my video, here's the link, and then you can watch it, and we can help them facilitate all that. We're doing that a lot with the math department this semester. We're reserving big chunks of time with the recording studio, and so we'll have this is the first time we'll have traditional classes as well as online hybrid classes doing that. So we'll get some good data about it this semester, but it's still definitely an option if that's what you'd prefer. Just get in touch with me and let me know basically what will work best for you. For the online, it gets a little more tricky, but similar to what I was just saying, you can do it a couple different ways. If you have online classes, you can reserve a room, a time to meet, and we'll do it just like I said the first time. You have them do their presentations, they come in here, I record them, and you have nothing else to worry about. I take the videos and take it from there. Alternatively, have them record videos on their own and upload them to YouTube. I mean, they can upload them to a couple different places, but YouTube is traditionally the easiest place to do it. YouTube has stopped letting you record directly onto YouTube, but any sort of recording software, every computer comes with something. It's not hard to come by. They can get that. They can either use their own equipment, use the webcams from the library, or they can come in and see us at the OWCC, and we can help them record it and upload it before they even leave if they are worried about the technology. Alternatively, we can go back to what I was saying earlier, where you just require them to come see us, and they do it all with the Speech Center. You'll have to coordinate with me in other classes, because the more people who do that, the busier we'll get, and so the more I'll have to balance schedules, but it's certainly doable. So long as you coordinate with me early in the semester, and I know what you're doing, we can make it happen and get you all good to go. And those are the main ways you do it in the online class, basically. The other alternative is a live presentation. Those are a little harder to capture, though, and we'd have to install some screen cap software for you, or get you on a computer with screen cap. So most people have not opted for that route. It's certainly something you can do if you're more technologically comfortable with Skype and whatnot. Software is not hard to use, but it's just one more thing for you to worry about. But I'm open to whatever options, so long as we get artifacts, basically. As long as we capture the data, we capture the oral presentations, and we get those written presentations, and they're in a way where I can kind of sort them out and get them to the assessment team, because that's a big part of what I do here. So that's kind of in a nutshell, what we're doing at the OWCC. We're a support service. We're here to help students. We're here to help you. Essentially, you let us know what the need is, and I will do my best to get it filled and handled for you. So do you have any questions? Does that make sense with how we're doing the artifact collection, how that'll interact with you? Are there any questions about how that stuff's going to work? No? Excellent. Okay, very good. And like I said, I'm available. I'm on campus all the time. I'm in the OWCC. I wander around a lot because I do these presentations. I do different presentations all over the place. So I'm pretty easy to find at any given point. So you can just grab me in the hall or shoot me an email. The office is actually one of the hardest places to find me, but sometimes in my office as well. But just let me know you need help, and I'll be there, essentially. Email me, and it's not hard for me to find you wherever you might be. And if you're on Honeycutt or a different campus, we can get that sorted out too. I travel down there, so if you need a recording down there, we can get that done as well. That's not really a limitation for me. So, well, thank you very much for your time. And like I said, help yourself if you want more of these time slots, or if you have any other questions. Do you need this back? Okay. Here you go.
Is it good? Okay, thank you, Charles. And just to be clear, does everybody know where the OWCC is?
Condor building, turn left, and then work your way to the back of the building.
Correct. Yeah, it's on these little sheets right here. Condor 106 in the back of the Academic Success Center.
Right. It has one of the best views on campus, by the way. So it's a great, relaxing, safe space too. And students really enjoy working in there. The other two things I want to remind you of are in terms of oral and written artifacts, when you probably want to incorporate those within the semester. We ask that you don't wait till the last minute, the last part of the semester, for a couple of reasons. First reason is that scholarship tells us again that we want to give students multiple opportunities for practice. We want to give them some feedback, give them an opportunity to grow and to learn. And if you wait until a last day assignment or a last week project, there really isn't a whole lot of room for those opportunities to get that instructional feedback from us back to that student. The second reason is that when we're collecting data, we all know how hectic the last few weeks of the semester are. It's kind of also like the sand in the hourglass. When it gets to that last part, it tends to go quicker, right, than it did in the beginning. So we know that time just slips away very quickly at that point in the semester. And so given the time constraints, extra stress, we want to try to relieve that from you guys as well as Charles. He teaches too and coordinates the OWCC. And so again, waiting till that very last part, it just throws extra stress and potential for mishap and data to go missing or something to not get done. And so again, we just don't want you to wait till the very end. So we've encouraged faculty members to try to incorporate this midway or so, maybe a little after midway in the semester. You can also talk to other faculty members who fully implemented the QEP in those intervention courses where data was collected, and they'll tell you too that if you wait till the very end, particularly if you have a larger class, that it just creates room for error and problems that could arise. So we want to try to prohibit that if at all possible. Okay. Are there any questions then about where we are in this process?
So the oral artifacts and written artifacts, are most people doing them as kind of a combined project where they're the same, similar topics?
Yes. So if you give a prompt, a writing prompt, whether it's to research a scientist and write a paper about that scientist, or for that particular lab report on a special project you did in lab, then they would write about that, but then they also would speak about what they learned from that experience. So yes, you can build off of the same assignment for both.
And thinking back to when I was an undergraduate, as a senior, we had comprehensive exams. And the comprehensive exams were covering the whole
Right.
of your knowledge in that major. And we had, as seniors, we had to do a hour-long presentation in the fall, followed by, I forget how many pages in the spring. Is the experience of doing the oral presentation leading into the paper more efficient for our students, or is it vice versa?
From what I've seen, if you don't mind
No, go ahead.
going with that. From what I've seen, the written is usually easier for them to, because then they can use that as kind of an outline, as notes they can refer to. So long as you reinforce them not to just read it to you, make sure they don't just read the paper to you. My experience is doing the written component, because a lot of them have more anxiety tied up in the oral component, and so having the written component done gives them a solid baseline for that speech component. So, the content would be, like, say you start with the oral presentation, it would still be the same content-wise, but they had the added anxiety of that presentation component, because a lot of them get really stressed about it. So, from my experience, and to be fair, a lot of people just haven't tried an oral presentation component first, so it might be worth looking to see, but from what I've seen, having the written first is typically more effective, because then they're like, okay, I know this stuff, and that's what I remind them. You know this stuff, you've written about it, you've got the basis of it, and then they can present on it much more effectively.
Right.
Again, if I remember the oral presentations, we're talking about a 5-minute presentation.
Not even that. After the second year, we determined that about the 3-minute mark is plenty. Once students kind of hit that, they were just rambling, fishing, trying to fill the space, and the presentation content plummeted. Yeah. So in fact, you can look on the checklist, and that information should be there. I'm not sure if it gives the exact time or not, but approximately 3 minutes.
It's good to give them a range, 3 to 4 minutes, because then you run another problem is if you don't give them a range, sometimes they think more is better, and it's not oftentimes better. So 3 to 4 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes is usually what I tell my students, but because 9 times out of 10, you tell them 3 to 5 minutes, they're like, 3 minutes, good to go.
Right, but just emphasize again,
And then the length of the paper
is minimum of 1 type page, right? And those guidelines are there. Again, having that cover page or header information, having some kind of title, making sure there's consistency in the font and things like that.
forget what ours was, it's probably closer to 20 pages. And the idea of the oral presentation in the fall was to get you started on the research that you would do.
Yes.
So that you'd have enough research done to be able to do substantial paper.
Right. But those are good questions, and I think Charles also is right in that no one that I know of has decided to do the presentation first and then build on the written activity from the presentation, so we don't really have a lot of data to support which one is more effective, but based on anecdotally speaking anyway, people do the written part just because that kind of makes logical sense to research, write about it, have some working knowledge,